Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome to our Exploratory Data Analysis class. So, Exploratory Data Analysis, commonly called EDA, is a process of understanding a dataset structure, content, quality, and initial patterns or relationships before modeling. In Excel, EDA is done with visual inspection, formulas, pivot tables, charts, and conditional formatting. And we are going to include Power Query as we progress. So the first thing we'll have to do is to inspect the data set before us. So we have opened the Excel file. Right now, the file is named EDA Practice Dataset. So let us do a quick initial check. So the ideal thing to do is when you first open a data set in Excel, it's a good practice to do some basic checks before cleaning or analyzing. These checks help you understand the structure, help you identify the problems early, and get comfortably navigating the data or get comfortable with navigating the data. So the first thing we are going to do here is to freeze the top row. And why it's important to freeze the top row is because if you notice here, if we scroll down, you see that the top row, which is at row 1, will be hidden. So we will not know which is order, which is date, and so on and so forth. So the first thing to do is to freeze this top row. To freeze the top row, we will go to the View tab, right? You come to Freeze Panes, click the drop down on Freeze Panes and say Freeze Top Row. When you do this, the top row becomes frozen. So you can scroll down and the top row stays still. Okay? Now, this is one part that will help you identify issues because at least you know which column is the order date, and you can see that we have empty cells here, right? You can scroll down for visual inspection, right? But one easy way to continue our visual inspection is to ensure that we put filters on our column headings, right? So we can put filters here. And to do that, you go to Home, right? You go to Sort and Filter, and then click on Filter. You see, once we have done that, you see that we have filters and we can easily filter across the content of the columns. So we can click the drop down on Order ID and we can see Order ID. The important thing here is to check if we have null values or values that are not properly formatted and recognized as different values. For instance, if we look at the dates column, you see date formatting. Then if we scroll down, you are going to see that we have dates formatted differently, not having the same format, and this can give us issues with our analysis. So basically understand that we will have to clean our dates column, right? Let's go to name and we can see our name column, right? Okay. Customer sign up. In customer sign up, we see that we have the dates all in the same format, which is good. Let's look at age. Age, the same format is good. So what about gender? Everything is good here. What about region? Okay, let's look at it carefully. So everything is good here. Usually, when you check, especially where you have text data, when you check, you see, for instance, if Abuja was spelled ABJ and we have another Abuja as Abuja here, you see that it will be looked at or picked as separate entity. So that is what you have to look out for, okay? But now we don't have issues here. Let's look at city, okay? The city is good. Okay, you have to look at it if you have spelling errors, because spelling errors will also be picked as separate entities from the correct item. So that is how you go around. Let's look at price. Okay, you can see the price. Let's see if we have some issues here. Yes, we have some issues. We have blank cells. Okay, that is to say there are values that are null. Then we have formatting at USD here. Because of this text formatting or the presence of USD here, we won't be able to do aggregation. So that will make our analysis on the price, right, on the price column fail. Okay, so again, we can filter the blank. Okay, we can filter to see the level of blanks that we have. So we deselect all. It was like this. So we click to deselect all. We scroll down and select blanks and click OK. When we do that, we'll see the length of data, or to the extent of data that we have null on price. So this is what it is right now. All of this data will have blank price. That is no pricing for this data we have filtered, right? So let us clear that filter. We click on the filter and we clear filter from price, and we go back to our data set, original data set. So this is a standard practice for you to look at issues that you have within your data set. It's kind of a way of, say, early diagnosis to find out issues you have within your data set. Okay. So you can also look at these, you can look at this coupon, right? There are areas where we don't have coupon, but that is okay because not all sales have coupon. So that is okay. So basically, how you deal with values that are missing and values that are not missing is you understand that in the case of coupon, you know that not all sales will have coupon. So it's okay to have missing values. You don't have to fill this really. Or then in a case of comments, it's okay to have empty cells or blank cells because you don't have to have comments everywhere. But areas like price, quantity, total sales, it's not possible that you should have blank cells. So that should help you as well. All right, now that we've looked at this, let us see how we can handle the conversion or cleaning of our data, that is converting data types and handling missing data and so on using Power Query. So when cleaning data, the most common issues like we have seen in our data sets are the dates, the numbers, and categories. In this data set, we'll focus on order, dates, customer scenes, price, region, and product category. Okay, so we mean, remember, we are focusing on what order date. We have seen the issues in order date. We have seen the issues in customer scenes, and we have also noticed some issues in price, right? Remember the blank cells in price. Then region, okay, then product category. All right. So, and many more as we can deal with it. See here, this is what I was discussing. You see, this is clothing, right? And this is clothing as well. This is electronics, this is electronics as well. This is sport, this is sport as well. You see that because of this typographical error here, where we replaced zero, the alphabet O or the letter O with zero, you see that it separated these as different entities. So if you are doing a summary analysis, these toys will be different from these toys, right? So that wouldn't make sense, right? We ought to be able to use them together, okay? For instance, now, if I uncheck all of these and pick just these toys that was misspelled and click OK, you see the number of orders, right, that was misspelled. So all of these, the price, the total sales, will go to waste, making our analysis incorrect. So our analysis will be incorrect. Okay, so that is not what we want to do. We want to make sure our analysis are correct, right? So we will see how we are going to correct this so that when we pick sport, sport is sport. When we pick household, household is household. When we pick electronics or clothing, it will be exactly what we want. So let us go to Power Query and do those transformations, those cleaning there, okay? So what we are going to do is to take this data to our Power Query, okay? So there are two ways to do that. Since we already have our data set open here, we could take this data into Power Query from a table, right? We have other classes that we have shown how to pull up data from other sources. So we will as well share that with you, okay? But for now, since we have it open here, we could as well just take it from here into Power Query. So how do we even do that? So we'll go to data, the data tab on our ribbon here. You can see from get and transform data here, right? You can see this area, right? So we'll say from table or range. So click that. All right. So now that we have done that, remember to always check my table has headers, okay? Make sure you check my table has headers. It's supposed to automatically check this, but if it doesn't, check it. The reason why you have to check it is because if you don't, it's going to give you, or it's going to assume that this first row is part of your data set. And then it's going to give you column names automatically. That's the column name is going to be column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, and you don't want that, okay? So to prevent that, make sure that my table has headers. It's checked. So, and also make sure that your data set is wrapped correctly. That is from the origin to the end of the data set, okay? So you go ahead and click OK. So you see that it converted or converts our data set to table immediately while then opening the Power Query editor. So we have our data set here in Power Query editor now, okay? So you see everything has been taken to Power Query editor. So what we can do, or the first thing we need to do, is to realize, or I will say, don't get overwhelmed with the interface of a Power Query editor. Like I always say, when we use it one part at a time, we will understand it more instead of understanding everything first. It's just like life, right? You don't understand life before you leave it, right? Isn't that the case? You leave it while you understand it. In fact, many people to the end of life, they don't understand life. So I look at it that way, and I'll say, my charge to you is let us learn how to use these tools one step at a time, so we get to understand how they function based on the commands we use step by step. Okay, so the first thing we will do is to see how we can rename this table. Instead of having it as table 1, let us rename this query, right? So how to do that is to easily right-click on it and then click on rename. Let's call it sales, okay? And hit enter. So automatically you can see here that it's sales, and you can see the name of this query is sales automatically, right? You can see that. So another thing I have to point out to you is that you can see here that Power Query automates the process of data cleaning by saving applied steps. So instead of saying using undo, redo, what we do here is that if we have to go back a step, we will click on the X mark here to close that step. Okay. So now recall what we did at the beginning when we freeze or froze the first row, right? Remember this rule. You see that here in Power Query, we can here in Power Query, we can scroll down, scroll up. The column names remain static. Now here, we could also filter, right? We have to filter automatically. It brings that up for us to easily do that process. Okay. So you see that in Power Query here, everything is just easy. We just go straight to the point. Okay. So let us start from the issues that we identified in the beginning, right? So let's start with the dates. That is order dates and customer scenes. So since we have two dates columns, that is the order date and the customer scenes, let's see how we work on that. But again, if you see what happened here, the customer scenes automatically converted to the right date or the right data type, which is date, right? So one thing I have to point out is that once you take your data into Power Query automatically try to identify the data type. If it possibly can, it will correct it. That is why you see this type here, say change type. You see that, right? It's a change type. So that is the first automatic task that Power Query does for you while you take your data into Power Query. Okay, so you can see that it automatically also assigned whole numbers to age, text to gender, and text to customer name as you progress. But the issues within the order date were so many that it could not just automatically identify the type. So basically, we'll see how we will work to clean the order date. We are going to have some errors, but we can work basically deal with them one step at a time. So let's look at the order date. Okay. So like I said, the Power Query imported our data and treats dates as text because of the inconsistent formats. That is why you can see here is text, right? So the easy way to identify data types in Power Query is just beside the names of the columns, you are going to see the data types, okay? So let us highlight the order date and begin the process of cleaning that column. So we will go to transform. We'll go to transform, all right? Then you see data types right here. It's currently on text, right? Look at it here. Data types is on text. You can find these on the home tab as well. Under transform, you can see data type as text. So just anyone that's easy for you. All right, so let's go on cleaning, or let's go on to clean the order date. So we will highlight the order dates column and we'll go to transform, like I showed you earlier. Click the drop down on data type and select date. And here it's asking us if we want to replace these or add a new step. If we click on replace, it's going to replace these. If we click on add new step, it's going to add a new step under here. So let's say add new step. Like I said earlier, we are going to have some errors because of this date entered as numbers. So we could use the M language to write a more or a more robust data cleaning formula to deal with these, or we could simply just deal with this in Excel. So I'll show you how to deal with this in Excel later on, okay? So, but basically, if you don't have these issues, you will have successfully cleaned or clean this order dates column. So let's move on to areas where we had issues too. Areas like the price column, right? So let's head on to the price column. Right, in the price column, we will see that we had some issues here, right? We had some issues here earlier, but based on the conversion, right? based on this earlier conversion, there are some errors that exist because it converted the price to decimals, right? You can see the decimal here. So we basically had this error here, okay? So, but because it converted on its own, it had that error. So basically what we can do, okay, you can see it maintain the error. So basically what we can do is to take out this first change type. Okay, when we take out these steps, you can see as we have taken out these steps, you can see that the error is gone because we basically have a mixed content in these price column. We have both the text and both the numbers, okay? You can see that, right? So we have the numbers. So we basically don't have these numbers replaced by errors, okay? So we have them there. If you click on the filter, you are going to see we will have those numbers there, which we didn't have before. We have the decimals and the text mixed, okay? So what we can do now is to replace these values. So we highlight the price column, we go to transform tab and we click on replace values. When we click on replace values, what we are looking for basically to replace is the USD, right? So let us basically convert all of this to text first. Okay, let's convert all of this to text. So we convert all of it to text so that we can use text-based cleaning methods to deal with it. When we convert all to text, you can see that we will be able to deal with this successfully. So let's highlight it and go to transform, go to replace values, and let's replace the USD, right? You can see now we don't have any error showing here, right? Because all of it is text and replace values is used to replace one value with another in selected column. So basically, we'll leave the replace with empty, okay, so that it replaces with nothing. So we click OK. Once you click OK, it has replaced this value. So what we'll do now, and we click the drop down for the selection now, you are not going to see those USD anymore, right? They are no longer there. So we can just easily click the click here on this ABC to say decimals because the price are in decimals, right? Or we highlight the column and go to data type, click the drop down here and say decimals. So when we do that, you see we have successfully changed it without errors. So we don't have those errors there anymore. So remember what we did? We had to convert it back to text. Let everything be in text format so that we can use text-based cleaning method to remove the USD and then convert everything to price. So we basically have dealt with the price column successfully. Okay, so let's see others. I think one of the issues was that we experienced was in yeah, I think product category. But in the product category, let's see, we still have those issues here, right? You can see it. Okay. So what we can do is to carefully just clean them up. So how we will do that is to use the replace as well. Okay, so we'll replace clothing to clothing and make sure electronics are the same. We'll also make sure groceries is grocery and sport is sport. You can see the difference here, right? Okay, so let us do that. We'll highlight the product category and we'll go to transform tab and then click on replace values. When we click on replace values, we want to find what? Let's start with groceries, right? So we had want to find groceries, that is with 0. we want to replace it with the correct spelling. Okay. So make sure it's the correct spelling. If not, you'll be adding more problems. So let's click that. So we have dealt with that. If we look at that, we will not have double groceries anymore, right? Okay. So let's replace electronics. We'll find the electronics with a starting with a small letter E and then make it electronics. That's the right way. Okay, we click OK. So that is done. Let's click the drop down. So we have clothing to deal with. You see that electronics, we just have one now. We now have clothing to deal with. Then we go to sports. Okay. Then toys. Okay. So we have clothing, sports, and toys. Okay. So let us go on to do that. So still on transform, replace values. Let us find toys spelled with a 0 and replace it with the correct spelling of toys. Okay, that should be replaced. Let us still leave it highlighted. Go to replace values. Let's look for clothing with the 0s, right? And let's see, is it clothing or clothing? Yes, clothing. Let's spell it right. Clothing. That will be replaced. So it's left with toys or sports, right? So replace values again. So let's look for sports and replace it with the right spelling, sports, and click OK. That has been replaced. So if we click the drop down now, you see that we have a harmonized list. That is automotive, beauty, clothing, electronics, groceries, household, sports, and toys. So right now, we'll be able to do our analysis correctly, okay? So it's as easy as that to clean that column. So let's look at region and see if we have any issue with region. Let's click the filter button here and see. Okay, inspecting it, we don't have any issue. So now, what we'll do now, we'll move into the area or the section for handling missing values and duplicates. So we have to understand that real-world data sets often have missing values, right? And that is why you see in some columns, you are going to see blanks, right? Like if you click the drop down on some columns, you are going to definitely see blanks. Let's see this. You see null value, right? Null here representing empty cell, okay? And let us see somewhere else. Let's see region. If we have any null, we don't have any blank there. But real-world data set often comes with missing values or duplicate rows. So Power Query makes it easier to detect, to clean, and document your choice or choices compared to using formulas directly in Excel. So I've basically showed us how we can easily just look for null values. But let's work with the price column here, right? When you go to price, you're going to see null, right? Let's deselect all and select null. If you click OK, you are going to see the length of data that we don't have price for. Okay, you can see it here. We don't have price for all of these, and that's why it's showing that not as null. So let's clear that filter to have a full data set back. So now the thing here is this. We will have to decide, after inspecting, we'll have to decide how we deal with these nulls. Okay, how we deal with missing values, basically. Okay, so the thing here is that we can decide to drop rows. That is, if only a few rows are missing price, we can remove them. Okay, then secondly, we can use we can impute values with statistics. That is, replace missing values with either mean, median, or mode. Okay. Thirdly, there's a third method. We can use the fill forward or fill backward. That is, fill down and fill up, right, to deal with that. But how do we come to that decision? How we come to the decision is this. If we look at this now, if we say we actually want to use any of these methods. Let's say we want to use a fill down method or a fill up method. What happens is that it uses precedence. That is, for fill down, it utilizes the data before, that is on top of it, on top of the, or over the blank cell. So I'm looking for a blank cell so that I'll describe this, okay? So the data is very large. Okay, let's look at this now. I saw one here. I saw one somewhere here. Okay, let's look at this now. So if I was using a fill down, what will happen is that it's going to copy this data here, right? It's going to copy it here. But mind you, this price is for electronics, right? So the question is, will this price be exactly the price for this toy? That's the question. If we are using fill up, it's going to take these spots upward. That is, this price is going to copy it here. So this product category for sport, would that be the price for the product category toys? That is the issue with fill up and fill down. Then again, if we were to use impute numbers or with statistics, numbers with statistics, what we'll do is that we will use average. That is, if we use average, we are going to be filling up all the blanks with the average of our price column. So the question now again, would that be appropriate? If we use median, it's going to be filled up. So everything missing is going to be filled up with the same value of the median of our entire data in the price column. The question still remains, would that be appropriate? So while we show you all of these methods so that you apply them, the best thing is that we do data validation where we collect our data, okay, to avoid all of these issues. When our data collection process is properly validated, we don't have any of these issues. Like, for instance, we could validate our data collection process in such a way that if you don't impute price, you can't go forward, right? It will inform you, it will give you an alert. You have not imputed a price and you can't go forward. So with those kinds of systems, you wouldn't have to deal with all of this, right? And again, if you come to think of it, if we were to drop all of these columns that don't have price, how much will it affect our entire data set? So that is it. Those are the dilemma, right? That is the thing we have to think about. So you look at it like opportunity cost. So if you think of the cost of missing data and the time you will spend trying to figure out how to deal with missing data, you will as well use a quarter of that time to validate your data collection process. So basically, it's advised that you validate the data collection process so that you don't have to deal with this. But I'm going to show you how we can use all of these methods I've pointed out to fill up this, missing values, okay? Now, remember, it's because I'm dealing with a numeric column. That is why I can say we can use what? Mean, median, mode. If you are dealing with text, for instance, say product category here, you won't be able to use statistical method, that is mean, median, mode, to fill up null cells. So now let us highlight price. If we were to use statistical method, what we'll do is to do what? When you highlight the column, you go to transform, you can see here, you have statistics here. You see, you have sum, you have minimum, maximum, median, average, standard deviation, count values, and so on, okay? So basically, if you say average, it will calculate the average, okay? And so this is the average, right? 113, that is the average. right? It will calculate the average of that value of the values in our price column. So let us take that out. Watch the average now. The average is what? 113.78. Okay, let's take that as the average. So I want to compare average with mean and give you basically explain something there. So let's take this out, this step out. Let's go back to the price again. Okay, so in the price here again, still let's us use that statistic and let's use median. When we calculate our median, you see our median is 91.945. Okay, so basically, both average and median are measures of central tendencies, but in skewed data, where you have very low data sets or very high, very low data in your data set and very high. So you see that the data will be skewed, right? Meaning that the best means of determining your center will be the median. So now let's take this median now, for instance, and we want to use this median to fill up those null values. Okay, now we've taken note of that median, 91.945. Okay, so we can then go to our price column, highlight it, go to transform tab, and so we want to replace values. So let's find null and replace it with what? 91.945. We go ahead and click OK. So what happens is now that we have replaced that value, if we click the drop down, we won't have nulls anymore. But the question, like I asked, is that would that be the right step? What if that price is not actually that price? But again, remember what I told you, that you could decide to take off those rows, which will do all of these steps so that you just learn how to apply that. Remember what I told you about skewed data? You see this price here at 4,688. You can see that, right? You can see that we just have about few data that is that high. And because of that, we will have a higher what? We are going to have a higher average compared to the median we have. So in that case, the median will be the best measure of central tendency. Okay. All right. So basically, let's take that. We have learned that, right? So let's take that off and look at the fill down process. So let's look at the price again. So looking at the price column here, okay, so from the price column here, we can easily just say, all right, let's check to see that we still have nulls. You know, we removed those steps that we did, okay? Let's see that we have nulls. So how do you do the fill down? The fill down is you go to transform, you see fill, you see up and down. I've already explained up and down, right? So you see it there. You can use any one just for practice sake. So we basically filled up. Okay, now that we filled up, we definitely will not have any blank anymore. We will not have blank. So we basically use two methods now. So let us now move this back into our Excel. So what we do now, we can do that from file or from home. Okay, you can see close and load here. But what we want to do, we don't just want to close and load it to Excel alone. So we will say close and load to, so that we can select how we want to close and load our cleaned data. So you see, if we click OK now, you see it will just come up as a cleaned table in a new data or worksheet, right? This was our old data, okay? So what we'll do is that we want to add it to our data model so that in our next class, when we'll be doing summary analysis and or descriptive analysis using data analysis expression, we will remember that this is how we worked on this and this is the data we use, right? Okay. So let's add this to our data model. And let's also make sure that we can have a table to continue analysis with. Okay, so we'll click OK. So once we click OK, we'll see data will be loaded into a new sheet called sales. Remember, the sales was as a result of our renaming in Power Query. So basically, all that we have cleaned have come down here cleaned as well with the data type that we determined there in Power Query or was determined in Power Query. All right, so let's soak this in. Ask your questions in the live chat box. We'll deal with that in our learning channel or learning platform. So we'll continue with the data cleaning process. Then we'll go into summary analysis using pivot analysis. We'll do using data analysis expressions and descriptive statistics in the next class. So see you all in the next class. Bye.
Hey Chance, thank you for sticking around and watching the video till the very end. We appreciate that you took your time to join and to learn. Do remember to subscribe, share the video to as many people as possible so that we get many people to learn. See you in the next video.